Thank you, Cirak. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here on this podcast at Usada. It's nice that we get a chance to speak in the very first series. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Manish. It's just as much a pleasure for me to be here.
I'm absolutely amazed with the workshop that you hosted. And of course, at some point, we'll speak about it. But I'm curious to know, and for our listeners, to share a little bit about your backstory and how this whole journey unfolded.
Yeah. Well, we eventually wind up helping others, being of service, because we went through all the things that deepened us and that taught us the lessons and made us reflect and be more self-aware. And that's what happened. I had a regular career life in tech, .com era, entrepreneurship, then in UX as a designer for the Los Angeles ad agency world, and lots of interesting projects, but a lot of doing. And all that doing eventually, something's missing, and I think there came a point when there was a tipping point. And I said, I just can't keep chasing or can't, checking off the boxes that we're all told to pursue, and that will lead to, some permanent state. And it doesn't, and we just kind of assume that for a long time, some shorter, some longer, but we all kind of get to that point where there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
And then I didn't really choose the better way, it chose me. In that, when the rug gets pulled out from underneath all those old beliefs and assumptions, then you kind of have to rebuild yourself.
Yeah.
But without another belief structure to replace the old one. But learning to hold space and be.
And that led you to sort of certain practices, or how was that journey?
Yeah, I mean, it started with I went into isolation in the California desert for 6 months.
Wow.
And I thought it would just be a week or two, and then it just kept going. And then slowly I didn't know what was happening, and it took a while for me to even understand what spiritual awakening is, or what the symptoms are and all that. I remarkably had never heard of it.
Wow.
And living in LA, you do yoga, you do some meditation, it's part of the lifestyle there, but it was not my focus at all.
Sure.
And then it just kind of became the focus. And then just trying out different things. Actually started out with sound healing, and that was appealing. I'm a musician.
Oh, wow.
And but it expanded quickly into different meditations, and I wound up staying with Vipassana.
Yeah.
That very quickly became my favorite. And then friends would come visit me, and they would apparently see some changes in me, and they want to know what I'm doing, and I'd start getting phone calls, where are you right now? and I'm like, I'm sitting on my couch. Where do you meditate? And I say, on my couch. And they maybe thought there would be something special, but no, I was just kind of spending more time alone and having more stillness around me, and just less clutter, both physically and then the information that we take in, and that kind of the normal, natural, balanced perspective and insight arises on its own.
True.
We actually have to try really, really hard to keep it out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Constant scrolling, constant arguing, debating, noise, and always rushing and always avoiding.
Yes.
But if we just stop doing that for a little bit, it comes flooding in. And then you just have to kind of handle it. Find some tools to learn to deal with the discomfort that initially is there with the unknown, with no longer having a belief structure to cling to.
Yes.
So it takes some time. It's the nervous system that is used to reacting and clinging and controlling.
Good.
And now we have to find a kind of a higher gear that doesn't need that stuff.
Absolutely. That's so beautifully articulated, and I'm sure all our listeners will appreciate the way you've sort of made that journey for them.
Yeah, and I would say that I was seeing it in many people I knew, even some friends, and they kind of got to the same place, but they all, for one reason or another, they went to the doctor, popped some pills, went to work the next day.
Yeah.
And maybe they had to, but still, very few kind of
Yeah.
you know, recognize that maybe something deeper is going on.
Yes.
And that was really the only difference. I didn't think I was special. It's just that I did create the space around me for whatever wanted to come forth, to take hold, and then here we are.
That's such a beautiful insight that to be able to give the space to offer oneself the luxury of allowing ourselves to stew in whatever challenging situation we find ourselves in, rather than a quick fix.
Yeah. Eckhart Tolle has a wonderful quote where he says that all of our troubles can be distilled down to our inability to sit quietly in a room by ourselves.
How beautiful. That's so true.
That's all we have to do, and then it'll set the ball in motion. Yeah.
And then by and by, you started to sort of teach, and then you put together a remarkable methodology
Yeah.
and a set of practices that you offer. Would you like to share some insight?
Yeah, I mean, I often get the question, who was my guru? I didn't learn from one person. I just learned from everyone.
Yes.
And at different times, different things resonated. But it's more the overall orientation, which I talk about often, is just make self-inquiry your lifestyle, your the way you organize your day, the little pockets in your schedule that you could use easily instead of waiting or worrying. That's already a few hours right there every day that you could use that for presence practice, for just even looking around and taking in the decor, using your senses to connect to what is right now, and really familiarizing yourself with presence and with yourself in relationship to that. So many people complain they don't have the time, they don't want to add another thing to their schedule, like meditation and so forth. You don't have to. At least initially, don't let that be like the requirement and the excuse to not do anything.
Yeah.
You just do what you're already doing, just do it a little more mindfully, a little with a more intention, and you don't have to change any routines.
Yes.
And that more intention, that precision, that detail, the just the level of the quality of your presence that you bring into that is going to change your relationship with those things. In your relationships with people, in your relationship with your job, in your relationship even with your commutes. These are all opportunities to deepen and really see the meaning that is, and this is where we go into a deeper place, that is inherent to everything that's happening.
That's true.
The content itself is a distant secondary. It's not that important. It's the awareness of the content.
You get it, for sure.
And so if you can make steps towards living from that place, then you're in good shape, and as it is in terms of your evolution.
Sure. Of course, like having gone through the journey, and now you see it as something that can be done without having to change a person's lifestyle, routine, and so on. And yet, of course, you changed it dramatically with the time spent in the desert and so on. How would you sort of now, is there a middle ground where somebody, it's not, yes, it's seemingly, you're right, that big changes are not needed, but yet is there a space for the requirement for big changes in some way?
Yeah, so it always, I say, look at the motivation of your actions. Is it coming from reactivity? Is it coming from judgment? Is it coming from rejection or resistance? These are all, the quality of the seed is then contained in the fruit, in the result. So if you're acting from that place, your actions just won't be as genuine and fruitful and as they can be. But if you are operating from acceptance, from non-resistance, from gratitude, inspiration, and letting those things guide you, then you have a practical indicator that you're going in the right direction. You're not just perpetuating old patterns. And those things tend to show themselves best when you're in acceptance to what is. When you're not making big changes and big decisions in your life, again, from that reactive, judgmental mind, but rather from things emerging on their own, revealing themselves on their own. You might want to change your job, but not from judgment that it's all, not worth you or beneath you, but rather from, for example, I've completed my mission here. I've fulfilled what my role was here. And that's a very different motivation to then take out into the world and seek something that is, again, in more alignment,
Yeah.
as opposed to before when you're just going to probably recreate the old thing because you're
Back end,
still...
a different place.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Sure. Cirak, if you could share for our listeners some practical tool that they could use. You've got a whole plethora of tools, but some tool that they can use on a day-to-day basis when they feel aggrieved or in sort of
Yes.
some suffering.
Yeah. Well, the key word you just mentioned is feel.
Yeah.
And even I struggled. I remember thinking, what are feelings really? A better word, I think, is sensations, and that's what we use in the spiritual world. And so sensations are,
Yeah.
in your body. It shows up somewhere. Every thought has a related sensation, and look for that. Notice it, see where it shows up in your body. Just stay there in as long as you can in an unbiased, neutral way.
Yeah.
And you'll find very often it diminishes, it changes, and sometimes it dissolves entirely.
Just with the awareness, the attention.
Yes, exactly. Because the moment you notice something, the moment you're aware of something, you're no longer it.
That's right.
You're no longer identified with it. It no longer has power over you, and that already changes a lot.
Right.
So yeah, always look for where you're feeling it.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's really beautiful, and I'm sure a lot of that, with your love for Vipassana, that would have been further distilled into a tool as sort of simple and profound as what you just shared.
Yeah.
Really beautiful.
Yeah, if you take that, and that's what I did, I designed a method I call a conscious release method, where you engage, because some of this stuff is deep down. Most of our, during formative years, that's we have to go down to the root of things. But the root of everything is energetic in nature. So we can, if we spend enough time with an appropriate somatic journeying technique, we can go in there and give even the toughest blockages, the toughest knots, the space, the time to disentangle and then dissolve and leave us. And so just kind of thinking, I'm just going to feel where my feelings are for a moment. I remember struggling, like, what does that really mean? And even if you do it for a second, that doesn't mean it's over. And oh yeah, I felt it, now I'm free and clear. That's not how it works. You may have to spend more time there. So looking at its shape, its size, its color, some people say give it a name, and is it three-dimensional, and try to engage with it in a very purely logical way. I mean, everything we're saying here is, you don't have to think of it as spiritual per se.
It's very embodied.
Yes, exactly. And just give it the space, and because these are unfinished emotions that at some point there was an unpleasant feeling, we reacted to it, and we kept it from completing, and so now it was stuck. Now we have layers and layers and layers of stuck feelings.
That's true.
Going back in there and giving it the space allows it to complete, and then it leaves us. And that is really the root of things that a lot of Western medicine doesn't even begin to understand. So,
Fair point. Fair point. It's not deep enough. Fair point.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you 3 questions.
Yes.
And if you could provide like a very quick sort of one sentence sort of answer.
Yeah.
The biggest mistake you've made, since we're talking about spirituality, this journey per se, the biggest mistake you've made in your journey.
Well, I think I made a big one, just like every beginning meditator, is you have a blissful sit, and then you think you need to get back there. And if you don't, if you can't find back to that state, then you're a failure, that's not working, and then you give up. And so that blocked me for quite a while. I remember maybe a year or 2 in, suddenly I just got attached to this feeling state. And then it took another year where I just gave up on the practice, because till somebody pointed out what I'm pointing out to you now is that you don't quiet a busy mind by wanting it to be quiet. You quiet a busy mind by accepting that it's busy. And that acceptance of whatever state you're in, that's where it's at.
Sure. Yeah. The other question that I have is, a lot of the techniques from ancient wisdom with modern research has catered to a human mind that's more or less been the same for the last 2-3 millennia. Same kind of needs, desires. With the social media, with AI, with all these things going at breakneck speed, are those tools relevant for today's mind, and which areas of research would you want to bring into your work to counter what's coming?
That's a great question. I don't think the mind today is any different than it ever has been. And every individual has their own mind and their own state and their own challenges and their own obstacles and their own path to travel, whether it's in a high-tech environment or low-tech or in a cave or on another planet. It's going to be what it's going to be, and the challenges that we face are really just a reflection of our own limiting beliefs and whatever lens we've constructed. And so anything other than the wholeness and the completion is going to lead to some tension, some friction, some suffering. That will then challenge us to find where that lives again and dissolve that, release that, and get rid of that weight. And a lot of the weight, most of the weight we carry is not even our own. We've inherited it from our lineage, and so we're doing the cleanup for our whole ancestors who didn't have a chance. So I think it really doesn't matter on the environment. The lessons will find you because you're really just experiencing yourself. You're in your own world, you're seeing it through your lens, and hence that you're really engaging with a mirror. And then the circumstances are, I don't think they matter. You'll find what you need to find.
And what are we losing by losing the empty spaces in the day? So back in time when we were younger, we were waiting for somebody, or we had a lot of empty spaces when we could just be. What are we losing? Of course, we're losing the time, but what are we losing because we take our phone or some such? We've lost boredom, right? So what goes with that?
Yeah, sometimes I think back and it's like, how did we even meet our friends? Like, how would we know if they showed up or if they changed their plans or something? Like, how did that work? I don't actually remember how. It's crazy.
What a lot of trust. You make a call and then the person shows up. Now you're 1 minute late. Where are you?
Yeah, exactly. It depends on how we use that space. So even back then, if we were just thinking and worrying or distracting ourselves, then it was probably no different than distracting ourselves with scrolling today. And maybe it was video games or even sports, you could say, is a form of distraction. It's better than scrolling, but and there's a groundedness that comes with that, and an embodiment that comes with that, and a cleansing and purging. That's all good, but that alone doesn't do the trick. And you can look at pro athletes and what they struggle with the most is their head. So even back then, as it is today, if you had some guidance and some tools to somebody saying, hey, next time you feel the urge, a question comes up and you feel the urge to reach for your device to look for the answer, is just stay with the urge, notice the sensation of that, let it be unknown for a little bit, even just 30 seconds, but notice what that feels like, because that's your relationship with the unknown. And if you can cultivate that, do that for a few times. It doesn't take that long. That's the amazing thing with all this. It's not some rocket science or reserved for fortunate few. It's just notice what that feels like and stay with it and let that kind of change and shape shift and then dissolve. And so suddenly you're no longer afraid of not knowing or of the unknown or nothing happening seemingly. And that awareness starts to then grow and grow and grow, and then you really relish the moments where you can be still, where someone's late to a meeting. People show up and they say, Cirak, we're so late, I'm sorry, it was traffic. No. Thank you. You gave me, the greatest gift of a few minutes of stillness and presence and being, and no agenda, and looking around and like how amazing is this room or this building or this projector or all this technology. How amazing that it exists. Without identifying it with it. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
We often say this, that you said that you come from the advertising background. I started life as a copywriter and advertising. We say that the human being is gifted imagination. And I think with a lot of the scrolling, imagination goes. like you rightly said, we're so quick to find an answer. The imagination seems to go.
Yeah.
That has detrimental effects.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, if we're, or we lose everything,
Yeah.
right? That's the answer to that question is but it doesn't take, half a day of consumed by doing
Yeah.
and half a day to then just be to offset it.
Yeah.
It just takes a few little breaks, a few little openings, a conscious breath, 3 seconds before
Yeah.
responding, just using the little moments at the elevator or in line at the coffee shop. Just it's there, and that's all it takes to let in that light and the lightness of that, and yeah, exactly.
Cirak, would you like to share a little bit about the new book that you're writing?
Yes.
And some details of how people can reach you.
Yeah. So it's called End of Illusion. It's my 6th book. It'll be out this fall. And it really highlights all the top 40 things. I sometimes call them thought balloons. They are just these concepts that we live by. They're assumptions that we've just never questioned. Much of it is just part of our environment growing up, belief systems. It's in the education system. It's in the workplace. It's just these norms and social protocols that we just kind of assume.
Yeah.
And but they're like balloons. If you just poke them a little bit, they pop, and they're gone. And what you use to pop them with is not voodoo magic. It's reason. It's just think about it a little more, just a little deeper, an extra step or two, and it doesn't make sense any longer. Yeah, suddenly you're aware of the comedy that we've been living, and let that inform your decisions, any changes you want to make after that. But what this book does is really highlight just all the different things we live by that we've never questioned. And so let your flowering happen from there.
I wish you all the very best for that.
Oh, thank
you. Could also just share, before we do a last message, if you could just share your website and how
yes.
people can reach you.
Yeah, the easiest is Cirak.com, Cirak.com, and you'll find my social media handle is Cirak Teachings. But you'll find all the events, all the different teachings. I've got the Heat Check program, which is that debate show that you mentioned earlier.
Beautiful.
And then I've got some tech innovation where my entrepreneur background comes in with the Soul Orb, which is a holographic real-time representation of your vibrational state. Again, these tools and ways to communicate and engage with each other and ourselves and life that go beyond the traditional just sitting on a meditation cushion, because I saw how I struggled, I see how others struggle, you don't really know if it's working, if you're doing it right and all that. So all this is geared towards really injecting you with a little fun and camaraderie and aliveness. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Our listeners would have thoroughly enjoyed this. I'm sure they'll reach out to you. Before we close out today, I'd love if you could just share some message to all our listeners.
Yeah, so the truth of our existence, the natural law, if you want to put it that way, is a paradox to the mind, but it's quite natural at the energetic level. So you've heard what you resist persists. A lot of this is in our mainstream language, or stop to smell the roses. Those are golden truths. And so the idea of self-improvement is at the forefront of many of us, all of us who want to get better and become a more authentic version of ourselves. And so we seek, and we keep seeking. But there again lies in that paradox. If you keep seeking, you'll never get there, because that's the message you're putting out, that you're not there yet. So the paradox, the big paradox of that is that you'll get there, but not by wanting to be there, but by wanting to be here. Accept where you are, who you are, work on any resistance that you can feel within that space, and as soon as you disentangle, as soon as you accept and allow, and acceptance is not mental reframe, it's accepting how you feel about it. That acceptance moves you through it and forward, and then you're free to make choices and decisions, and it automatically catapults you into the future. So, work with where you're at, and not so much trying to get to somewhere else.
Thank you so much. There's one question that just struck me that I forgot to ask in the quick fire.
Yes.
So I'm going to throw it in just before we close.
Yeah.
What is the role of wisdom in public life? We seem to be going through a very challenging time with leaders not as inspirational as in decades gone by. Just a quick take before we close.
Yeah, that's not a small question. So we can learn, we can grow from an environment that nourishes wisdom, that brings us everything we've been talking about, that is at the forefront of our education and of our entertainment and the information we take in, or we can grow from suffering, from friction, from animosity, from clash. We grow from both ways, but the Earth School it tends to be the latter, where we grow from disappointment and from the friction. So both lead to the same place. It's a little harder to constantly have to learn lessons, but it deepens us. And I would say, even if there was such a thing as a perfect upbringing and a perfect environment, which there isn't. You can't, your parents are going to do the best they can, but they can't say the right thing at the right time or give you a hug exactly when you need it or something. You're going to experience abandonment. You're going to experience, being told to be, quiet when you need to speak or whatever it is. And so it's a kind of a utopia to say that, we could just have a perfect world when there are no challenges. But there are challenges, and plenty of them, and you don't have to even go looking for them. They come knocking at your door. There are quiet times I've found in my life where use the quiet time when not too much is happening, rest, because it's going to pick up again. You don't have to artificially be pushing forward all the time.
Sure.
And the wisdom is less about what you're ever going to say or tell anybody. It's what you embody. It's what you've learned through direct experience. If you take everything you think you know, probably it's the tiniest fraction is direct experience. Everything else we learn from books or from the media, and that's not our, that's somebody else's experience, but not our truth. So really focus on your truth. The other information, it can be there. You don't have to react or glom or judge it. It's there, but focus on what's real for you. And then that way, the way you carry yourself from that place is authentic. It's genuine. It's not just talking. You've walked the walk, and people can see that in you, and because everyone, that's what we want for ourselves. That's what we feel like we're missing. It's just to be real. And so that wisdom of direct experience comes out in your realness. And let that speak for itself.
Thank you, Cirak. On behalf of all our listeners, on behalf of the Usada family, I'd like to thank you and wish you all the very best for the new book.
Thank you. Thank you, Manish. Thank you, Usada. Thank you. All right.